In fact, the Honorable Minister has asked us to be very brief in introducing him, so I'm going to do just that, to be very brief. Honorable Dr. Yao Osei Dutum, MP, is currently the Minister for Education of the Republic of Ghana, as well as the Chairman of the Ghana Commission for UNESCO. He is a Member of Parliament for the Busumchi constituency in the Ashanti region of Ghana. He was the Chief Executive Officer of Lakeview Schools in Jechi in the Ashanti region before his election as an MP. He was also the CEO and founder of New Designs Educational Group, California, USA. He has over a decade's experience in the educational policy, planning, and administration. As an MP, he has so far single-handedly sponsored 97 students from the Busumchi constituency to pursue programs in engineering and medicine in universities across the country. That is an ongoing program, so we'll leave to tell the story another time. He was born on 9th of April, 1964, and I know that year, in Kumasi, and hails from Jechi in the Ashanti region of Ghana. He obtained his bachelor's degree from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in 1990, and a postgraduate diploma in teaching, that is teaching credentials, from Chapman University, City of Orange, California, USA in 1999. He obtained his Master of Education in Educational Management and Administrative Services credentials from the University of La Verne, California, USA in 1997. He was awarded a Doctor of Philosophy degree in Educational Policy and Administration from the University of Southern California, USC, Los Angeles, USA in 2008. He has participated in several UNESCO conferences and workshops where he was a resource person in many of them. He is also a member of several professional bodies, recent ones being the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, USA. Until his current appointment, he was the Deputy Minister for Education in charge of general education. With this brief introduction, please help me welcome our guest of honor and Minister of Education.
Thank you, Registrar. It's indeed an honor to be at University of Cape Coast. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chancellor and Registrars of sister universities, Your Excellencies, colleague ministers, members of Parliament, present, Osabere Kwesiata II, Ugwamahine, Nananum, invited guests, members of the university community, staff and students, our friends from the media, all other protocols duly observed. Thank you, Registrar, for a brief introduction. I've never been at a university whose anthem is so inspirational than that of UCC. Yeah, it's the most inspirational anthem I've ever listened to. And maybe because I'm a teacher, it rings a bell with me. But I was super excited hearing the words of your anthem. Your existence as a university and the work that you have done is well known in the world. Your accolades, everybody knows by this time. And yesterday I was at the University of Ghana. And today I'm at the University of Cape Coast. And I'll not do any comparison. Because I don't want to be in trouble. But suffice it to say that the university that is focusing on education obviously is going to leave a great legacy. Legacy that will be incomparable to any other. When you are raising the men and women who enter the classrooms and educate the future generation, you have embarked on a noble vision and your mission should therefore be supported. So today, as you launch your 60th anniversary, on behalf of the president that you recently recognized at this university, I want to congratulate you for the work that you are doing here. Your theme was talking about the new frontiers. The new frontiers in terms of access, new frontiers in terms of quality, new frontiers in terms of relevance of what you do here to the socio-economic transformation of our nation. My staff spent a considerable number of hours in writing my speeches. And at the last minute, I changed it. So I changed it to reflect what I see in the audience. I see people with beautiful smiles, right? And if my speech is not going to allow them to smile, then I have to change it. You are a university of competitive choice. And this is what actually reflects what you do. By also helping to build a competitive nation in the 21st century. A nation that must survive the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution was the steam engine, the second electricity came, and we thought we had seen it all until the advent of computers. Then the electronic era also came. Today we have stepped into the fourth industrial revolution, a place where we see the synergy between the electronic and the biological. When you are able to enter a facility by virtue of the fact that you are using your thumbprint, you are merging biological and electrical. By virtue of certain devices, you are able to even look into the refrigerator in your house to see whether you have enough water in there or if you need to buy more. This world is changing. The era of artificial intelligence is defining work. And it is documented that in the next 10 years, in a number of countries, 40% of the work that is being done is going to be done differently and invariably by robots. We are in a different era. We are in a different time. And for our nation to be competitive, we need to change how we teach and how students learn. We can't continue to do the same thing that we've done over the years and allow our nation to become competitive. Our nation will not be competitive unless we stop rote memorization in our classroom. When we happen to be in a space where students are supposed to give back to us what we give back to them, that is not creating a competitive nation. I've seen that before. When in some subject I never got an A when I was at the KNUST. And I remember one course that I never got A in. It was called Land Use Planning. The professor wanted to make sure you gave back exactly what he gave to you in the notes. And my man was not made for that. And therefore I was penalized for not being able to memorize. There were no computers then. Now there are computers. Your phone is a computer. If it's about memorization, then just record it onto the computer and professor play it to yourself and you have it back. But if we want our nation to become competitive, then we want to ensure that the students add value to what we tell them, what we teach them. So that the professor, when marking the script, is also learning from the student, because the student is bringing up great ideas that the professor was even not going to be secondary. If you look at the Pre-Tertiary Education Act, which governs education in this country, you're going to realize that in that act, we did not even include junior high schools as part of secondary. We are saying that they are part of basic, some definition that was given to us by UNESCO. Consequently, when we move from the O and A level and ventured into the junior high schools and senior high schools. We pushed the junior high school away from secondary, made it part of primary. And then we told ourselves that you are still called a junior high school. In the American education system where we borrowed this from, junior high is part of secondary. But we never did. That is why there must be a change. We must ensure that the weak middle is strengthened. So, University of Competitive Choice, we want you to lead the way in education reform in this country. Should never be the preserve of the Ministry of Education to come up with ideas. You are the forefront of education transformation. I want you to begin to look at how do we strengthen junior secondary to truly make it secondary and not part of primary school. So we are one of the few nations where secondary is 3 years. Never seen it anywhere. At minimum is 6 years. So by the time you finish your lower secondary or junior high, you'll be introduced to biology, chemistry, and physics. You can do your robotics. By the time you go to the senior secondary, you are fully prepared to do university education. And that is why the president has directed me to ensure that we strengthen the lower secondary, the junior secondary level, as we call junior high school, to make sure that we can truly have a 6-year secondary education. It doesn't mean that it has to be at one location, but it can be at different locations, but wherever you are doing there is secondary education work and not primary or upper primary work, so to speak. So University of Cape Coast, we want you to lead the charge. The government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has come to lead and champion education transformation. So many things are taking place. And they are all taking place because we have to change the way we do business in the field of education. All the nations that have transformed their fortunes have transformed it because they've changed how education is done. So that education can truly benefit their nations. When we talk about the Asian tigers and we talk about how rapidly they have transformed their fortunes, it's not because they have gold or diamonds or they have the richest soils in the world to plant cocoa, but because they look at education and saw that that is the only way forward for them. And consequently, when education was done well, their nations changed. Recently, South Korea, about 3 years ago, it's not that recent, but they came to Ghana to give us money to build a university at Bunso. Fortunately, that university's construction will begin in about a month's time. But when they came here and had a meeting with us at the Ministry of Education, they asked us, how is it that in 1960, Ghana was economically better off than us, but now we are better off than you? You don't want to be in that kind of meeting when somebody is asking you, how did that become better than you? But that was the meeting that we were sitting in, and we're scratching our heads in shame. And then they showed us a graph. There were 3 of them. The first graph was comparing the per capita income of Ghana and South Korea in 1960. In 1960, our per capita income was $189, and theirs was $156. And then they said, so you all know. And then they moved on and showed us another graph. The other graph was the gross tertiary enrollment ratio of Ghana and that of South Korea. Our gross tertiary enrollment ratio at that time was 16.19%. Now we are 20%. But South Korea at the time was 93.6%. And they said that is why we are here to give you money to build another university. If you don't change your gross tertiary enrollment ratio, you can never be like us. That is why the President of the Republic has given us a mandate that by 2030, Ghana's gross tertiary enrollment ratio should be 40%. When you hit 40%, a lot of things change for you, for your country. Mauritius is 40%, their skyline is changing. Countries that get to 50%, it works like magic. If we don't strive to move forward In terms of higher education transformation, we will never be like the Asian tigers. Our cocoa will not do the trick. It's going to be education. So as you do your 60th anniversary and talk about expanding the frontiers, I want you to expand the frontiers of quality education. I want you to begin to look at your graduates as one that are going to add value to the labor force of this nation. That industries will come to this university and recruit from here. You should provide the right and requisite manpower in such a way that if companies come to these universities and they were planning to recruit 10 students, they will end up recruiting 40 students because they cannot resist recruiting from the University of Competitive Choice. Your accolade of competitive choice will be validated by the kind of graduate you produce. The kind of graduate that will encourage students to give up their best in the classroom. I have meetings and I've taught in a number of classrooms. I love teaching. And I enjoy students. You meet with them and they are so innocent, you can mold their minds to think bigger and to really dream big. Understand that they are the future leaders of this nation. Your competitive choice should also be demonstrated in the area of increasing access, which I believe you are doing very well. You have branch campuses in various parts of the country. But I want you to begin to reassess a new frontier where you take charge of education of teachers for special needs children. Special needs children, autistic children, that will need some speech therapy. Our nation is in short supply of speech therapists. Cape Coast must lead the way. You must lead the way in the training of education psychologists. Those who can support our teachers in the education of our children. You must lead the way in STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I love it. That's why I'm sponsoring about 97 of our STEM professionals. I believe that we can do better as a nation by increasing the percentage of our students who are in these fields. Doing very well in other fields, but when it comes to STEM, we are found wanting. And especially when it comes to gender parity. At the Kwame Nkrumah University of Technology, Science and Technology, leaders of engineering, only 15% of the engineering students are women. And it's not good enough. We can do better. So at the Ministry of Education, I think this will have been an indictment of KNUST. I talk about engineering at KNUST and the light went off. So I'm glad it's back because that would have been bad. The President of the Republic is leading the charge in STEM education. And we need UCC to respond by giving us STEM education professionals, teachers who step in and teach students in that field. This year we've opened 4 schools dedicated to STEM. If you go to the STEM school in the Northeast, Pasempen, the one in Eastern region at Abomosu, you'll be amazed at the kind of school that the President has sponsored and has been built. Next year, we'll be able to open about 7 more STEM high schools across the country. We believe that we need to build a pipeline of students in the STEM fields and eventual graduates in the STEM fields. And that is why we are not just looking at high school. Lower secondary schools that are under construction are going to provide us the opportunity to do STEM education and be able to become competitive with the rest of the world. Mr. Chairman, our current gross tertiary enrollment ratio, as I've alluded to, is something that we need to work on. We need to make sure that our numbers will go up. But increasing access must not be at the expense of quality. We can do both. And that is why some people indicted us with a free senior high school, saying that we are destroying quality. The research is there. If you increase access without qualitative intervention, yes, quality will diminish. But that cannot be said of the free secondary education. It cannot be said because we also introduce interventions. For the first time, we brought about intervention grants so that teachers will be paid extra to offer extra support to our students. And as they say, if you really want to judge how well we've done, go to the outcomes. The last 3 years, our WASSCE results have been better than the years when there was no free senior high school. And for those who doubt it, you can check. Data don't lie. If the data is lying, then I'm lying. The data shows the students have done better the last 3 years than ever. And then when you hear about the double track, I want to speak briefly about it before I take my seat. There are some who at the beginning did not understand. There are some who chose not to understand. But in America, when I was teaching in Los Angeles, they changed their high schools in most of the states from 3 years to 4. High school used to be 3. In the US, in 1992, California decided that their high school should be 4, so that the student will be adequately prepared for university education. And so they did. But even in America, they didn't have the money to expand infrastructure. So they had to use what was called year-round schools, or what we call in Ghana double track. So I taught in a double track school for 10 years. And access was expanded. After 10 years, they returned most of their schools to single track. When the president brought about, endorsed, and helped us to introduce double track, he said the same, 5 to 7 years. And as I speak with you, the Minister of Education is transitioning all schools from double track to single track. That is why we don't have any double entry of Form 1s in any school in this country this year. All Form 1s are going to school as one cohort and not double. Next year, instead of alternating for 2 tracks to be at the campus at any point in time, next year a number of schools will go back to single track because they've gotten enough facilities to do that. So you're going to see across the length and breadth of this country that a number of schools will move on to single track. The entire school will open and close the academic year at the same time. Promise made, and the promise will be kept. But what has been the result of the number of students who have had a chance to go to senior high school in this country? In 2016, the number of high school students, those who enter high school, was around 300,000. This year, we are poised to bring in close to 500,000 students in our high schools. If things did not change, if the vision of the free senior high school was not implemented, if double track was not implemented, this year, 200,000 students will have stayed at home. They may not include your children. But I'll tell you this. If talent was fishes and they were in ponds, there will be 2 ponds in Ghana. The pond of the rich and the pond of the poor. In the pond of the rich and the privileged like me and you, educated, where our children are in that pond is overfished because all of our children have a chance to go to the university and move on to do master's degrees. But the pond of the underprivileged is not being fished at all. And that is where all the talent in this nation is. And if we're going to look for extra talent for the transformation of Ghana, we have to be concerned about the underprivileged or the less privileged of this nation. Their talent is not being used by this nation. Your children's talents will be used by this nation. So if we need extra resources to change this nation, it's not going to come from your home, it's not going to come from my home, it's going to come from the home of those who are less privileged, the poor. They are the ones that we have to support and help and lift up and give them opportunity. And when we give them that opportunity, it's not just for them, but it's for this nation. Because in their communities is where the new talents can be found, where we can mine the new Einsteins of the world. There are families where nobody has ever gone to senior high school. And if we don't go there, and we continue to look at ourselves and begin to complain, why are we bringing all these children here? There are places where teachers are complaining that students with aggregate 20 are being accepted. I had a wonderful conversation with some man who is very high up. He called me one day and said, why are you sending students with aggregate 22 to Presec? And I said, sir, I think Presec has one of the best group of teachers in this country. He said, yes, it's true, Presec, yeah, that's my school. And he said, yeah, they are examiners and they are very good. And I said, yeah, sir, I know. They are examiners and they are very good. So they are the ones who are prepared to teach those who have a grade 25. The idea that students who are grade 25 should know go to Presec, it boggles my mind. They are the ones who belong to Wesley Girls, where you have talented teachers. So if Wesley Girls want to prove to me that they are the best school and they are the best school, they need to take in students who are grade 20. And turn them around so that they can tell us that they are better than my famous school, Jate Pramso. So when my teacher pass taking I get 30 and 40 and the student don't do, I say, look at them. So I believe that what we are doing is supposed to bring everybody on board, help mold their minds, bring all people, irrespective of where they were born, into the talent pool, lift them up. Let them begin to know that their future will be brighter. Children who may never seen WC before. And I tell you, they are hungry for knowledge. They believe the only future they have is education. And when you bring them in and you mentor and guide them, they will be the best this nation has to offer. I'm standing in front of you here and I never went to Infansepen. Never had a chance to go to a Disada. Because my dad couldn't have afforded it. He couldn't have bought a trunk for me to go to boarding school. So I found myself at Jate Pramso. Took advantage of every opportunity that the school could offer. Opportunity which included the fact that we had no running water. We had to go to a pond to fetch water. Sometimes we saw vultures in the pond. We told the headmaster, and the headmaster said, no, it cannot be true. Vultures don't like water. So, my story is a story of education and transformation. And so is the story of a number of you. So we can't look back and turn back on the poor. Once upon a time, we were like them. And I say this all the time. Some of you pass in front of schools in our communities where the less privileged children attend. Spend 15 minutes of your time to go there and talk to the children and let them know that if you are a professor, they too can be professors. This nation's transformation is not just in the hands of politicians. I know we are the one that you sometimes lament about, and I say you lambast us. And then the story ends, my brother, right? And I hear people say, if only the politicians will change, this nation will change. Some of us have changed a long time ago. So help us change this nation by doing your part. You have a role to play. Let that child who is sitting in the Zongo or the RC primary hear from you. Let him know that he can become like you. She can become like you. The army of volunteers in this nation. If we all go to one junior high school, one primary school, and spend 15 minutes with the children, there are children there who just look at you and say, wow, he's an accountant. I can be. You may never go there again, but that may be your lasting legacy to the children that you speak with. I want you to understand that the future of this nation is in your hands, in the hands of all of us. Our future is better than the past. This nation will see transformation, but it's not going to happen unless all of us become agents of transformation. University of Cape Coast, at the forefront of education, is indeed at the forefront of social transformation. If we support this institution, if we work hard in this institution, our future will be different. Cape Coast, we all owe. Cape Coast, we owe. They gave us the best schools in this country. And we made most of those schools boarding schools. And the children of Cape Coast could not pay for boarding to go to those schools. Those of you who had a chance to go to a Disada and Fansipim, how many students in your class were from Cape Coast? Natives of Cape Coast. We owe Cape Coast a lot. So University of Competitive Choice, step into the classrooms in Cape Coast and lift up the children from Cape Coast and let their future be better. I charge you, as you celebrate 60th anniversary, to set up a neighborhood academic initiative where you mentor and guide the young ones in Cape Coast primary schools so that they too can be here and they can have the opportunity to sit in a beautiful hall like this. And it's not going to happen if we keep on sitting in the ivory tower and forgetting about those whose lands we have our beautiful edifices on. I know Nana will be happy. And I'm coming here to launch the Neighborhood Academic Initiative of University of Cape Coast. Mr. Vice Chancellor, if you do, the ministry will support. Will support you to have the transportation to send volunteers to the various primary schools in Cape Coast, get them literacy tutors, so that it will not be said that by the time Cape Coast students get to primary stage, they can read. You know, in 2015, an exams was administered and only 2% of primary 2 students could read in Ghana. Today, things have not changed much. But Cape Coast, the citadel of learning, must not be the place where they have poor learning outcomes. So, Nana, I'll support University of Cape Coast. I'll give you transportation. And I want inscribed on the bus. I want inscribed on the bus, and we'll write it before the bus gets here. UCC Neighborhood Academic Initiative. So the bus will drop off volunteers in all Cape Coast schools and pick them up at the end of their day. Let us change Cape Coast, and that will be the lasting legacy of University of Competitive Choice. I'm told I have to formally launch the 60th anniversary. So now that I've If you do this UCC Neighborhood Academic Initiative, you'll be the first school, the first university in Africa to do that. And your badge is going to be presented to you within the next 2 weeks. So by the authority vested in me by the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as the Minister for Education, I declare University of Cape Coast 60th anniversary duly launched.